I'm Limo Milan, and in this video we're going to look at finding the root key of audio within Ableton Live. So the purpose for doing this is basically we're trying to find the musical information that's within an audio file. So this could be a single sample, it could be a loop that has a nice idea that we want to work around or work to or make it work within the project we've already got going. Or it could be we're doing a DJ mix and we want to find out what the key of different songs are so we can start thinking about mixing in key as well. So there's a few different strategies for doing this. So we'll start off with the samples first and we'll work our way towards loops and then towards full songs. So what I have set up at the moment is I have a single sample, so I'll play that one first. Now this one has no information in the file name. Sometimes files will tell you whether it's in a particular note or key that you can then use to tune around. This one has no information, so I need to basically figure out what the pitch of this is. So if we're lucky, we can add a tuner to this, which is Ableton Live's tuner device. And usually, as long as the note's fairly consistent in pitch, not too dissonant or noisy, tuner can do a good job of finding what the musical pitch is of a sample. So I've got a tuner here, and it's saying an F sharp. Now, it says it's an F sharp. I always want to check that it definitely is an F sharp, that it's telling me that it is. So I also have an instrument here, and I've loaded in basically an initialized analog device, because it's a sawtooth sound, so a very bright musical sound that's coming through there. So find my F sharp key, and it sounds exactly the same. So the tuner's done the right job there. So what we can do is we can either choose to rename from the clip here, or if we double click to bring up the clip view editor, we can put in here the name of this. So it's an F sharp in musical pitch. Okay, so we've figured out what the pitch is of that. Let's move over to a loop instead. Okay, so there's a few notes in this. It's an arpeggiated piece. It's a rhythmic part. We can try a tuner on here. So let's try dragging a tuner onto here and see what happens. Nothing, hasn't got anything. It's too transient and very short in its moment of being a musical pitch. So it hasn't got a chance to try and figure out what the pitch is of that. So tuner's not going to work here. So we can try the keyboard instead. So let's try that this time. So it sounds like an A. Now, if you don't have a MIDI controller here, what you can do instead is I've got a MIDI clip already loaded in, and you can just maybe loop around this note. So use Command and L. You can loop around there while the music's playing in the background and just basically shift the note around until it sounds like it's the right note to work with this. Now, we're talking about the root key when we're doing this. We're not talking about notes within the scale, which is the collection of compatible notes with a musical piece. We're wanting the note that just feels like the home note, the one that can sit comfortably throughout the whole thing without feeling like it needs to go somewhere else. So it's the backbone note. So I'm looking for a note that, I might find a few that are compatible, but I'm looking for the one that really feels that it's at home behind this loop. So I'll just turn that down a little bit. So we've got a few different notes there that sounded, compatible with this, but it's really taking the time to go between all the potential 12 notes and deciding which one sits the most comfortably behind this. So I did it on the keyboard before, but it's that A that sounds about right. So that's the root note, but we don't know what the actual the scale is. So what the actual the collection of compatible notes are here. So what we can do is start just programming that in alongside our loop. So I've got two different sort of empty MIDI clips here. One class as a major loop and one class as a minor. Now I haven't put the notes in yet. I'll do that now. So if you're new to this, the quickest way to kind of know which notes or which space in between the notes create either a major or a minor scale is to basically look at the keyboard and look at the C note here And if you're wanting the major keys that are compatible with a C major scale, you choose all the white notes from that point onwards up to the next octave, which is the next one above. If you want to go for the simplest minor, you go for A and you follow all the white ones as well. That's the actual spacing for a minor scale here. So I'm going to do that in the MIDI editor. So just space these out so they're fairly slow in their progression. So we're going to go for, we're in the major box here, so I'm going to go for major, so it's all those white notes. So we'll just solo that out because at the moment I've made a C major in a MIDI clip there. It's got no relation yet to the audio loop that's playing. We're going to kind of massage that and make it work with the audio in a minute. So this is the spacing for the notes for the major scale. Now that's the C major. If we want to make it A major, all we need to do is highlight the notes. The beginning note is the root, so we need to move that down to the A. Just take the MIDI editor preview off there for a minute so it's not making jazz as we play. So it's starting off on that A that we decided was the comfortable continuous note that could sit behind that loop. Let's see what that sounds like with the loop in the background and see if we've got the right scale there using the major scale. So I'm just going to use Command and L to loop. No. There's a few notes immediately where they clash and they clang with the actual pitch of the original loop. So let's try the minor scale instead this time. So again, I'm going to solo it just so I can work away from this audio we're trying to decipher. And if you remember, we start off at the A key there, and we go for all the white notes from there. And then from that point onwards, if we need to, we can always then transpose that scale so the root note moves to a different position. So that's our minor scale now. Okay, so let's give that one a go. Okay, so much more compatible, right? We tried major, which is classified as the more happier kind of scale, but there were certain notes that just really were out of character with the song, with the audio that was playing. So we can now say that that is in A major. We decided what the root was, it was A, and then we decided what scale it was, and it was the minor scale, so A minor. That's what we'll put in, A minor. So A minor there. Okay, so going off this skill set that we've got, we now have the beginning point of it's an existing track, and we can try and figure out what the root key is of this, and then we can use the skills that we've got to figure out what scale it's in as well. But we want to now try and get our other samples to work with this new musical key that we're working on. And this is the whole idea of identifying separately what the actual root note is of all these different pieces of audio, and then retranspose them so they work with the current musical key and scale that we're working in within our musical project. So let's play this for a minute and we'll start figuring out what the root note is. So I'm just going to loop that note just so it plays continuously as this plays. And let's loop that section. So remember, we can try all of them, all the 12 notes. Okay, so a few of them are compatible because they belong to the scale that will work with this song, but it's that root that we're looking for first. And I deciphered that as the C note here. It's one that feels comfortable behind the whole thing. This is a good reason why we're using that analog initialized preset, by the way. That sawtooth can cut through music and you can hear the musical pitch really clearly. So we know that it's in C, but we don't know whether it's in C minor or C major yet. So let's grab our C major and transpose it. So that root note at the beginning is where we know the root of this song starts. Okay, let's try the minor as well. So highlight all of those and move up to C. Okay, now they both actually sound quite compatible at the moment. So the arpeggiated little run, the ascending run that goes diddle-doo, is just basically got the notes that are shared between those two different scales. So we know that the root is C, that's the key. And the scale at the moment, we're not too sure upon. It could be either of the two. They both seem quite compatible with it at this stage. So let's move further on into the song. So there's a lot more instrumentation in there that gives you a sense of the mood of what's going on here and a lot more notes going on. So let's try that major again. I have to turn it up now because that song's gotten a lot louder. Okay, so the introduction could have been either way, could have been minor or major. There wasn't enough information in there to swing it either way. But on this drop, that major is sounding, that third note is sounding very clangy with that. So let's try that minor. Okay, so C minor, that's what this song is. So the last thing we need to do is get the other things to work with this project. So we're basing our project around the C minor scale. The root note is C. So let's grab our sample here, which we'd said was an F sharp, I believe. So if you find F sharp on here, or if we look at it on the keyboard, we can count up the notes. So F sharp's here. And we can either transpose the sample down to the C below, or we can transpose it up to the C above as well. So I'm going to transpose it up in this case, just because I'm making a decision between the two options. So we count the notes. So we're at F sharp. So we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that's 6 semitones, 6 neighboring notes that it will take to make it the C that we need it to be. So I'm just going to press Z to zoom into this. Make it larger. We see the F sharp there. So we can go to transpose now. I'll just put it into one of the more favorable musical warp modes. Beats is based around making sure the timing of everything is perfect and the rhythm doesn't get distorted as you transpose things. Complex or Complex Pro is more musical in general and trying to get stuff to retain its musical tone to it. So this needs to go 6 semitones. And then let's put this alongside the introduction where we've got more space to hear this sample. So it's at 6 now. Okay, without the transposition, when it was the F sharp, and then with the 6 semitones above. So you can hear how we've made that now fit the root key. So let's do that one more time. We have our A minor sample here. So that's A, and we need to get to C. So 1, 2, 3, 3 semitones up. I think we've got a slight clash here because this is quite a sort of a dissonant sounding sample, and it is in A minor, not in either C minor now. It's not in C minor or C major, which the introduction we couldn't quite distinguish it. This sample seems to be a little bit of a clash here. So let's put it on the drop and see if it's more compatible with that section. Let's turn off our instrument up there. Okay, that sounds a lot better. Now you may have noticed I just moved over to the bit underneath the transpose. So the transpose is those semitones, clean cut transposition, so movement of the note to another note, going in fixed steps. Now that sample itself has come from a techno track, which is quite a dissonant track where things are slightly tuned up to create a sense of tension and slightly tuned down for what should be the perfect tuning. So I'm using the Detune here and just trying to play around with whether it sounds more in keeping with the track that it's playing with, either slightly what we call flatter or slightly sharper of its existing pitch. So I'm just going to play that one more time and just try and set that detune amount. So it's a little bit like just grabbing the tuning peg on a guitar and just slightly twisting it up or down. Okay, it's really slight, but it sits in there a little bit better when it's slightly flattened and made slightly lower in pitch. Not a whole semitone, just a couple of cents, so percents of a semitone. Okay, so we've looked at how we can get the root key out of a sample, out of a loop, and then a full musical composition, and then how we can distinguish whether that root key is going to be in the scale of a minor or a major scale, and then how we can transpose samples to work within what we decide is the actual key and scale of our final project.